शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। वञ्चनानन्दनं वीरं जानकी शोकनाशनं कपीशमक्षहन्तारं वन्दे लङ्काभयङ्करम्। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Namaskaram. Welcome to the 50th session of Narayaneeyam. Continuing on Sri Rama Caritam as described in the Sakam 34 by Narayana Bhattadri. As you are aware, Bhattadri chose to cover the entire Ramayana through 20 slokams in 2 dasakams, 34 and 35, whereas sage Valmiki gave us the greatest epic of the human civilization, Srimad Ramayanam, in 24,000 slokams or 48,000 lines of exemplary Sanskrit poetry to describe the incarnation par excellence. Valmiki used more than 600 subchapters. Within those 7 kandams or kandas or chapters, and the 24,000 verses are often linked to the 24 letters of the Gayatri mantra, with a new letter introduced every 1000th sloka, as many of you may be aware. Even with very limited digressions, utilizing parallels from Srimad Bhagavatam, Valmiki Ramayanam, Arvar's Divya Prabandham, Kampan's Ramavataram, and Saint Tyagaraja's songs on Ramayana, we hardly move to the slokam 3 of Dasakam 34, which Bhattadri utilized to mention fleetingly Ahalya Shapa Vimochanam, Rama Lakshmana proceeding to Videhapuri, Rama marrying Janaki after breaking the Sivadhanus, how during the same auspicious occasion Lakshmana married Urmila, Bharata marrying Mandavi, and Shatrughna marrying Shrutakirti, sister of Mandavi. After the wedding ceremonies, Rama started on his return journey to Ayodhya along with Sita, his 3 brothers and their newly wedded wives, and all other relatives moving from Mithila to Ayodhya. Bhattadri describes how Rama received the splendor of Vishnu from Parashurama to show the distinction and excellence of the Rama incarnation. Arundane rushande bhrugukula tilake sankramaya swatejo yade yado asyayodhyam sukhamidani vasankantaya kantamute. Arundane rushande bhrugukula tilake sankramaya yate yato asyayodhyam sukamigani vasankantaya kantamute. Shatrughne ekadato gadavati bharate matulasya adivasam tatah arabdho abhishekah tava gila vigatah ekayadisha putriyam tatarabdho abhishekah tava gila vigatah केहिकयाधीश बुद्ध्या आरुन्धाने रुषान्धे भृगुकुलतिलके संक्रमय्य स्वतेजो याते यातो अस्य योध्यां सुखमिह निवसन् कान्तया कान्तमूर्ते शत्रुघ्ने एकधातो गतवति भरते मातुलस्य अधिवासं तातः आरब्धो अभिषेकः तव किल विहतः केकयाधीश पुत्र्या. O radiant Lord, Parashurama, the scion of the Bhrigu Vamsam and son of sage Jamadagni, who killed 21 generations of Kshatriyas in battles, was blind with rage when he heard about your exalted prowess as the greatest Kshatriya ever born, and also the news of your breaking the great bow Pinaka of Lord Shiva. Parashurama then brought the bow of Lord Vishnu, Sharanga, to test you. Parashurama is reported in many treatises to have done a mockery of Rama. Tyagaraja uses the word Paryachakam in Telugu. Of course, we do not see any such word in Sanskrit. Questioning the prowess of Sri Rama breaking the Sivadhanus, claiming it to be an ancient, rusted and useless bow waiting to be broken by the touch, and thereby challenging Rama at a minimum to string the bow that Parashurama handed to him, challenging him just to come out of it. But if one were to patiently read the chapters 74, 75 and 76 in Balakanda of Srimad Ramayana, Parashurama did not heckle or mock at Sri Rama or do any paryachakam. We see the last slokam in chapter 75 where Bhargava Rama uses an indirect challenge bordering on insult like this. Yojayasva dhanusrete charam parapuram jayam Yojayasvadhanusrete charam purapura jayam Yadi shaktaha asika kusta dvandam dasyamite tataha dvandam dasyamite tataha dasyamite tataha Yojayasva dhanusrete charam parapuram jayam yedi shaktaha asikakutsa dvandvam dasyamite tataha. Take an aim with an arrow that conquers enemies' citadels, fixing it on this supramundane long bow. And O Kakutsa, should you be capable of doing so, thereafter I will give you a duel to prove your power. We discern from Dasharatha Rama's response in the words of Valmiki that the usage yedi shaktaha, which means challenging, like should you be capable, those two words are very powerful and hence triggered a firm if not sharp response from Sri Rama. Valmiki writes in the 76th chapter, Viryaghino iva shattam shatra dharmena bhagava Viryahinam iva ashaktam shatra dharmane bhagava Avajanasi me tejaha Pashame adya parakrama Avajanasi me tejaha Pashame adya parakramam Viryahinam iva shaktam shatra dharmena bhagava Avajanasi me tejaha Pashame adya parakrama Viryahinam iva ashaktam chatra dharmena bhargava avajanasi me tejaha pashyame adya parakramam. O Bhargava Rama, demeaning me as though I am timorous, hence incapable of handling your bow. I am an ignoble one for Kshatriyahood is all meaningless. Come on, Parashurama. Now you may see my valor and spiritedness or sprightliness just this moment. So said Rama to Bhargava. O Rama, when you strung that bow effortlessly, Parashurama became subdued and eagerly transmitted all his powers onto you and then departed to Mahendra mountain. How did Valmiki describe the submission of Parashurama? Did it happen somewhat instantly? Aropya sadhanu ramaha sharam sajjam chakaragaya Aropya sadhanu rama sharam sajjam chakaraga Jamadagnyau tato ramam Ramaha gruddo abravitidam Brahmano asi iti pujya me Vishwamitra kritena cha Tasmat shakto na te Rama Moktum pranagaram sharam Tasmat shakto na te Rama Moktum pranagaram sharam Imam va tvadgatim Rama Tapobala samadjitan Lokana pratiman vabi Anishyami yatichasi Nahi ayam Vaishnavo Divya Sharaparapuranjayaha Moga padati viryena Baladarpa vinachanaha Moga padati viryena Baladarpa vinachanaha Aropyasa dhanu ramaha sharam sajjam chakarha jamadagnyam tato ramam ramakruddho abravit idam. On lifting up the bow that is already fitted with an arrow on bowstring, Rama started to take aim with it, but hesitant about the target, Sri Rama of Dasharatha irefully said this to Rama of Jamadagni. Brahmano asi iti pujyo me Vishwamitra kritena cha tasmat shakto nate Rama moktum prana haram sharam. O Bhargava Rama, even if you are a Brahmin, you are eliminable. But because of your relationship with Vishwamitra and because you are a venerable sage for me, I am disinclined to release this arrow that exterminates your life. I could do it easily, but I don't want to do it. Imam va atadgatim Rama tapo bala samarjitan lokan apratiman va api hanishyami yat ichasi. O Bhargava Rama, either this motility of yours at the speed of your mind or even those unparalleled realms of heavens which you have earned by the power of your assesses, I will eliminate whichever you wish. Give me any one opportunity or any one option. Nahi ayam Vaishnavo Divyaha Sharapara Puranjayaha Mogaha Patati Viryena Baladarpa Vinashanaha. This Vishnu's divine arrow is the conqueror of opponents' citadels and a vanquisher of their valor and vainglory as well, and it will not fall through wastefully. Isn't it true, Bhargava Rama? So saying, archer Rama to axeman Rama questioned Bhargava Rama. Butalattu arasayallam ponru viddhanai endralum Butalattu arasayallam ponru viddhanai endralum Veda vittu ayamelon மைந்தன்னி பிறதம் பூண்டாய் Veda vittu ayamelon மைந்தன்னி விரதம் பூண்டாய் அதலின் கொல்லலாகாது அம்பு இது பிழைப்பது என்றால் யாது இதற்கு இலக்கமாவது அதலில் கொல்லலாகாது அம்பு இது பிழைப்பதென்றால் யாது இதற்கு இலக்கமாவது இயம்புதி விரைவில் இலக்கமாவது இயம்புதி விரைவில் என்றார். Kampan practically worships Rama as the incarnation of Vishnu, and he never accepts that he is just a Manusha. Kampan believes that Vishnu was aware of the truth that he was Brahman himself and behaves like Vishnu for the most part. The last 4 slokams from Valmiki has been summarized by Kampan in the 1298th verse of Balakandam. பூதலத்து அரசையெல்லாம் ஒன்று வித்தனை என்றாலும் வேதவித்து ஆய மேலோன் மைந்தன் நீ விரதம் பூண்டாய் ஆதலின் கொல்லலாகாது அம்பு இது பிழைப்பது அன்றால் யாது இதற்கு இலக்கமாவது இயம்புதி விரைவின் என்றான். You destroyed all the kings who ruled this earth for generations. Therefore, I am justified in finishing you. However, you are the son of a great sage who is the very embodiment of the Vedas, namely Jamadagni. Furthermore, you have undertaken sacred vows and are clad in the robes of an ascetic. The very form is that of an ascetic, so I am hesitant to kill you. I have already knocked an arrow onto the bow which is ready to be shot, and once I have set upon my bow, the arrow has to do the job, and it cannot fail its mark or be recalled in vain. Therefore, tell me quickly, what shall be the target for this shaft or the arrow? உன்னை கொல்லாமல் விடுவதற்கு 2 காரணங்கள் உள்ளன. ஒன்று, நீ வேதவித்தாகிய மேலோன் மைந்தன் என்பது. மற்றொன்று, நீ தவ வேடம் பூண்டது என்கிறான் ராமர் பெருமான். அணிந்துள்ள வேடம் கூட போற்றத்தக்கது என்பதனை வலியுறுத்துகிறான். மெய்த்தவ வேடமே மெய்ப்பொருள். பெரிய புராணம் says in மெய்ப்பொருள் 15th செய்யுள் மெய்த்தவ வேடமே மெய்ப்பொருள் என்ற மெய்ப்பொருள் நாயனார் வாழ்வு இதை உணர்த்தும். மாலர நேயமும் மலிந்தவர் வேடமும் ஆலயந்தானும் அரணெனத் தொழுமே என்கிறார் மெய்கண்ட தேவர் இன் சிவஞான போதம். ராமபாணம் தொடங்கிய செயல் முடிக்காது, அம்புரா தூணிக்கு மீளாது, வெறும் வாயோடு மீளும் வழக்கம் இல்லாதது எனும் மரபு பற்றி அம்பு இது பிழைப்பது அன்று என்கிறார் கம்பன். கொலை தொழிலில் சிரத்தல் தவமாதல் இல்லை என்க. உற்றநோய் நோன்றல் உயிர்க்கு உருகன் செய்யாமை இரண்டுமே தவத்தின் அடையாளங்கள் என்பது வள்ளுவர் வாய்மொழி. திருக்குறள் 266. Both Valmiki and Kampan are generous in explaining the submissions of Parashurama. Parashurama was humbled and he submits to Rama knowing that he is Sakshat Vishnu standing in front of him. Kampan treats Rama here and elsewhere as Purna Parabrahman. Parashurama hands over the bow and gives him his power and blessings. For some of you who may wonder why all this drama when the 2 parts of the same Vishnu knew their roles in this and what would happen next, Bhattadri indirectly answered this in the Sloka 4 by a few words and coinages, addressing Rama as Kantamurte, to show that the Lord, who was extremely handsome, was the worthiest person to have deserved the hand of Sita, who was herself the most beautiful woman in all of the 3 worlds. In place of Rushande Bragukula Tilake, there exists a variant, Rushande Kila Bragu Tilake, as opposed to Rushande Bragukula Tilake. The second one is also acceptable. Parashurama was also a partial incarnation of Lord Vishnu. He came voluntarily to Rama only to transmit all of his powers, especially that of Vishnu, that he was in possession of. Since he had to retire to tapas far away from civilization, but had to act as emitting rage and challenging him for a duel. Since he was, by design, inimical to all Kshatriyas, and Rama happened to be a Kshatriya prince with great prowess. So it was a role play from Parashurama, and Rama had to accept everything, even if it was a drama. So the only option left to Parashurama was to feign anger, test Rama, hand over the powers, and quietly walk away. This is implied by the use of Kila in the variant. O Lord of Guruvayur, you then reached Ayodhya and were living there happily for 12 years and with your consort Sita. As you were thus staying happily in Ayodhya, Bharata and Shatrughna went to Bharata's maternal uncle Yudhajit's capital city for a short stay. During their absence, your father King Dasharatha attempted to crown you as his successor king and made all preparation to celebrate your coronation. But Kaikeyi, Bharata's mother, whom you considered as your own mother, objected to this and obstructed the ceremony. In this matter, there is almost universal reconciliation that there is no point in blaming Kaikeyi. Was she really capable of obstructing the Lord's coronation? Why was it not the Lord's play to complete his wish that the coronation be obstructed so that he can be in Dandaka forest to fulfill the real purpose of his incarnation as committed to all the Devas? Bhattadri already described in first slokam of this Dashakam 34 the purpose of Ramavataram, destroying the wicked and getting rid of evil. Just as Krishna says to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. In this context, the explanation from Adhyatma Ramayana is very interesting and hence worthy of mention. Adhyatma Ramayana or spiritual Ramayana is a Sanskrit text that allegorically interprets the story of Ramayana in the Advaita Vedanta framework. It is attributed to Vedavyasa and is seen embedded in the later portion of Brahmanda Purana. There is also a strong belief assigning the text to Sant Ramananda. This work consists of 7 books, 65 chapters, and is through 4,500 verses in the form of a dialogue between Shiva and Parvati. Adhyatma Ramayana contains the ideal characteristics of Rama and the precepts related to devotion, knowledge, dispassion, adoration, and of course good conduct. Like Kampan's strong attempts, Rama is identified here as well as the supreme Brahman in the text of Adhyatma Ramayana, while the struggles of Sita and Rama are reinterpreted in an abstract spiritual form, not in a mundane human-to-human form. The allegory inspired several later versions of the Ramayana story in languages like Avadi, namely Ramcharitmanas by Tulsidas, also a Malayalam version of Adhyatma Ramayana by Tunjattu Ezhuthachal. According to the version in Adhyatma Ramayana, the whole concept of the story of Rama is a make-believe given as a dialogue between Parvati and Parameshwara, especially on the eve of the day of incarnation. This is how Shiva tells Parvati. Ravanasya vadhartaya jatosi raghusattamaye Ravanasya vadhartaya jatosi raghusattama idanim rajya rakshartam pitatvam abhisekshati idanim rajya rakshartam pitatvam abhisekshati yadi rajabhisamshabdo ravanam cha hanishyasi yadi rajabhisamshabdo ravanam cha hanishyasi pradignyade krita rama uvara haranaya vedate satyam guru rajendra satya sandhaga tvameva hi satyam kuru rajendra satyasandha tvamevahi satyasandha tvamevahi. रावणस्य वधार्थाय जातोऽसि रघुसत्तम इदानीं राज्य रक्षार्थं पिता त्वाम् अभिषेक्ष्यति यदि राज्याभिसंशक्तो रावणं च हनिष्यसि प्रतिज्ञाते कृता राम भूभार हरणाय वै तत्सत्यं कुरु राजेन्द्र सत्यसन्धः त्वमेव हि. Narada raises an interesting question. O foremost among Raghus, you have taken this incarnation for slaying Ravana. Now your father is performing your coronation for the sake of ruling the country Ayodhya, because you are a Chakravarti. If you are crowned as a king, you will not be able to kill Ravana, because that will be a reason not to kill Ravana. If so, what will happen to the promise you have made to rid the earth of its burden? Hearing these words, Rama answers with a smile. Shunu Narada, Shunu Narada, Shunu Narada, me kinchit vidyate aviditam kvachit. Shunu Narada, me kinchit vidyate aviditam kvachit. Pratignatam jayat purvam karishye tanna sausayagam. Ravanasya vinashartam swaganta dandakananam chaturdasa samastatra rushitva muniveshadruk Sita vishena tam duttam sakulam nashayamyagam evam rame pratigyate naradaha pramodaha. Shunu Narada, me kinchit vidyate aviditam kvachit pratignatam sha yat purvam karishye tanna samshayaha Ravanasya vinasartam svogandha dandakananam chaturdasa samastatra krushitva muni veshadruk Sita mishena tam dushtam sukulam nashayamyaham evam rame pratignate naradaha pramamodaha. O Narada, listen, is there any such detail that you think is not known to me? I shall certainly fulfill whatever promise I made and certainly fulfill all my commitments, as all of you are aware. I shall tomorrow itself go to the Dandaka forest to slay Ravana. You are going to watch that. And I shall stay there for 14 years, donning an ascetic garb, and there is a lot to be done. I shall kill Ravana along with his whole army and family. That will be done under the pretext of punishment for abduction of Sita. Narada was immensely happy on hearing Rama making this promise. So practically, Rama tells in advance what is going to happen from the day after this Samvadam and to killing Ravana and the entire entourage of Ravana. While all arrangements for the mega event of the coronation ceremony planned to be performed secretively in the absence of Bharata and Shatrughna were earnestly being made by King Dasharatha, and Kausalya was worried how the henpecked King Dasharatha would react at the hands of Kaikeyi, the Devas in heaven, prompted by the Lord, request Yogamaya, the Lord's creative power, to enter the intellect of Kaikeyi's servant Mandara and then turn Kaikeyi as well, so that they would do the job of putting an end to the coronation ceremony between Mandara and Kaikeyi. In the next sloka, Bhattadri describes Rama's departure to the forest as ordered by his father. Rama crossed river Ganga and lived happily at Chitrakuta. Tatochayatu kamo vanam anujavadu samyuta chapadaraga paurana rudyamake bhuva गुहनिलयगतः त्वं जटाचिरधारी तातोऽप्या यातु कामो वनमनुजवधू संयुतः चापदारः पौरनारुद्यमार्गे गुहनिलयगतः त्वं जटाचिरधारी नावा सन्तीर्य गङ्गाम् अधिपदविपुनस्तं भारद्वाजमारात्मत्वा तद्वाक्यहेतो अतिसुखम् अवसः चित्रकूटे गिरीन्द्रे तातोक्या यातु कामो वनम अनुजवधू संयुतः चापदारः पौरान आरुद्य मार्गे गुहनिलयगतः त्वं जटा चीरधारी नावा संतीर्य गंगाम् अधिपदवि पुनस्तं भरद्वाजमारात् नत्वा तद्वाक्य हेतोः अतिसुखम् अवसः चित्रकूटे गिरीन्द्रे. Kaikeyi, exercising her right on the two boons she was promised long ago by King Dasharatha, demanded the coronation of her son Bharata by one boon and the banishment of Rama to the forest for 14 years as an anchorite by the other. O Bhagavane, in order to keep up the words of your father who never swerved from the path of Dharma, you set out for the forest, armed with bow, accompanied by your brother Lakshmana and your young wife Sita. The citizens of Ayodhya, prompted by their love for you, followed you to the forest. However, on the way during night, when all were asleep, you simply resumed your journey quietly without any of their knowledge, who were still in sleep thanks to the Yogamaya, and you all reached Shringiberapuram, the capital of your devotee Guha, on the banks of Ganga. This village, Shringiberapuram, or town today, is known by the name Shringaverpur, often spelled as Shingraur, and is about 25 miles from Prayagraj, or what used to be called Allahabad in Uttar Pradesh. There, you discarded all your regal clothes and ornaments and donned the ascetic garb of bark and matted locks. You crossed the Ganga in a boat brought by Guha, the Nishada king, and reached the hermitage of sage Bharadwaja, which was on the way. You paid the sage your obeisance and, as suggested by him, stayed in Chitrakuta mountains even more comfortably than you were in Ayodhya. Bhattadri packs some remarkable expressions in just one slokam and shows his prowess of the language and excellence of expressions. The all-merciful Lord, having incarnated sportively in human form as Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan, in order to destroy evil and establish righteousness by setting an example as an ideal person in each and every action of his, shows the path of dharma or righteousness to mankind. Let us see the examples given in this sloka. Tatokya, at father's bidding, by which the Lord shows that there is no duty for sons higher than fulfilling their father's command. Dharmasastra says, Nahyato dharma sharanam kinchidasti mahattaram yata pitari sushrusha tasya va vachana kriya. There is no higher duty in the observance of righteousness than true service to parents or doing their bidding. In Kali Yuga, Bhagavan Vittala stood on a brick as ordered by his devotee Pundalika. Since when Bhagavan Vittala came to Pundalika's hut, Pundalika was serving his parents, Vittala had to really wait. To reconfirm this anecdote in existence for millennia, not only does the temple in Pandharpur has Vittala in the pose of standing with his hands on either side on a brick, but all temples all around India, anywhere there is a temple for Panduranga, the deity stands only in this pose. Sant Namdev melts singing in his praise. Yuge Attavis Vitevari Bhubha Vamangira Kumai Dise Divya Shobha Yuge Attavis Vitevari Bhuva Vamangira Kumai Dishe Divya Shobha Pundalika Che Bheti Parabrahma Lega Pundarika Che Bheti Parabrahma Lega Charani Vage Bhima Uddhari Jaga Charani Vage Bhima Uddhari Jaga Jai Deva Jaya Panduranga Rakumai Vallabha Raicha Vallabha Pave Jivalaga Jaya Panduranga Jai Deva Jaya Panduranga Rakumai Vallabha Raicha Vallabha Pave Jivalaga Jaya Panduranga Jaya Panduranga Jaya Panduranga. For 28 yugas, Pandari Vittala has been standing upon a brick. On his left side, Rukmini, Rakhmabai appears in divine splendor. To meet the Bhakta Pundalik, the Supreme Brahman himself has arrived, while at his feet flows the river Bhima, liberating the entire world. You must remember, this Abhang was composed by Namdev more than 1,000 years ago. So at which time Namdev says, for 28 yugas, Yuge Attavisa Vitevari Uba Vamangi Rakumai Dishe Divya Shobha. So for a pretty long time, the Bhakta Pundalika story has been there. That is the reason why when Namdev or anybody else went to the temple of Vittala, they saw him standing with his hands on either side of his hip and standing on a brick. In fact, this is nothing but an example of how Bhagavan waits for those who do their duty, especially to their parents. Anujavadu Samyutaha is another phrase in the slokam. It dictates that any action, even if full of righteousness, must be performed, accompanied by the devoted wife, dependent children, and other relatives in order that it will bear the desired fruit. Chapadharaha indicates that one should arm oneself only with weapons that are really essential to protect one's life, and anything more than that will lead only to sorrow. It is somewhat strange that most of the countries, say about 190 of them in the world, have strict laws similar to the above I quoted now. Regrettably, despite thousands if not myriads die of gun violence in this country, we have not understood the basics of compassion, order, and the concern for the others. Dharmasastra also says that whether one is living in a city or a forest, one should observe one's own duty, swadharma, in all circumstances, as Rama performed his duty as a Kshatriya with weapons in hand, since his job was to protect everyone around him and those in distress. Not that anybody and everybody can carry their arms and move around, which is unsafe for the entire humanity. Unauthorized and non-Kshatriyas should not hold or wield any weapons as they are not entitled. So Bhagavan was a Chapadaraha, because the indication is one should arm oneself only with weapons that are really essential to protect one's life, and anything more than that will only become the main reason for sorrow. Pauran Arudhya Marge indicates that all of those householders who had not attained perfect dispassion followed Rama only out of blind devotion and attachment to him. Therefore, they had no right to discard their families and leave for the forest. Their duty as householders would not be fulfilled in case they left for the forest, as they would not be able to protect their families. Therefore, it was best for them to remain in the city and continue their household duties. It is imperative that people behave with full knowledge of what they are doing. Otherwise, they are likely to lose whatever self-knowledge they have already gained from their teachers and also from their vasana from their earlier births. Guhanilaya Gataha indicates that the Lord would treat all devotees alike without consideration of their birth. Whether a Brahmana or a Chandala, The Lord treats them without discrimination as long as they are devoted to Him. Jata Chiradari indicates that one should have the same mental attitude towards luxurious clothes and ornaments and towards simple things like clothes made up of tree barks and matted locks. Santirya Gangam Nava indicates that crossing a river which takes a brief time is not prohibited, like the journey on the high seas, which is an impediment to perform daily rituals like Sandhya Vandanam, which requires really a river because of the longer duration to reach the shores. Again, any Sandhya Vandanam has to be done on the banks of a river, on the shores of a river, and hence they always believed in short journeys. Adhipadavi Punastam Bharadwaja Maharaj Natva indicates that one should proceed on one's way only after honoring the venerable people living nearby. On the way, even that means a delay. Tadvakya Hetoho indicates that people, however discreet or judicious they are, they should explicitly obey their acharyas or preceptors' words. Atisukam indicates that the sense of fulfillment or great satisfaction and happiness that great men derive on the discharging their swadharma or the prescribed duty is unseen elsewhere. Indeed, such a sukham is incomparable. In fact, if you all remember, there is a beautiful song by Tyagaraja where he says, Inta Saukhyamani Sappajala. It is very difficult to describe, or it is impossible to describe the extent of Saukhyam. That is the reason why Bhattadri says here, Ati Sukham. And the Sukham cannot be substituted, and the kind of pleasure and satisfaction and happiness derived out of the sense of fulfillment is incomparable. Shutva putrartikinnau kalu bharata mukhat swargayadam swataga Shutva putrartikinnam kalu bharata mukhat swargayadam swataga tapto datvambu tasmai nidhadita bharate padukam medinim cha Atrim natva dagatva vanamati vipuno dandakam chandakayo patva daityam virado sugatyo akalaya charugo sharabhangi Atrim natva dagatva vanamati vipuno dandakam chandakayam Hatva daityam virado Sugati makalaya charugo Charabhangi Go Charabhangi Shutva putrarti kinnam Kalu bharata mukade Swargayatam swatatam Tapto Datvambu tasmai Nidadita bharate padukam medinim cha atrim natvata gatva vanamati vipulam dandakam chandakayam hatva daityam viradham sugati makalayas sharuboho sharabangim. Bhagavane, when you were staying in Chitrakuta, you heard from Bharata about the demise of your father Dasharatha. Owing to the pangs of separation from you, your deep devotion to your father, the knowledge that he died because of separation from you, and the consequent sense of remorse made you deeply anguished. That's why the use of word tapto. Later you performed all the prescribed obsequies to fulfill your duty towards your departed father. When Bharata entreated you to return to Ayodhya, you were firm in your resolve of fulfilling your father's command. You succeeded in persuading Bharata to return to Ayodhya as your regent after bestowing on him your sandals and the kingdom. After that, thinking that staying in Chitrakuta was not proper, you went to the hermitage of sage Atri. After paying your respects to him, you entered the dense and expansive forest of Dandaka. There, you destroyed the monstrous demon Virada and reached the hermitage of sage Sharabanga. The highly accomplished sage was expecting you in his hermitage. After your arrival, he laid down his mortal coil and attained salvation. You graciously witness this episode by being beside the stage. Here, Sugatim Akalayaha can be attached to other words in this slokam in two ways. Chandakayam Hatva Daityam Viradam Sugatim Akalayaha. You killed the demon, monstrous Virada, and granted him salvation. And Sugati Makalayaha Charubohu Shaharabangim can also be the way the Sugati Makalaya is attached, which means you graciously witness the salvation of Sharabanga. How do we come up with this kind of attaching it in one place and putting it the other place concurrently? This kind of usage in Sanskrit is known as Kakakshinyayaha, the maxim of the crow's eyeball, about which I have mentioned long ago in one of the earlier sessions. The Kakakshi Nyaya takes its origin from the supposition that the crow has but one eye and that eyeball can be moved from one socket to the other depending on the occasion or as occasion demands. The same applied to a word or phrase. Although used only once in a sentence, if occasion demands, it can be moved to serve two different purposes. So this is a definition given in the grammar book called Medini Kosha. Natva agatyam samasta sharanikara sapatra kritim tapasebhyaha. Natva agatyam samasta sharanikara sapatra kritim tapasebhyaha. Pratyasraushi priyaishi tadanuja munina vaishnave divya chape. Pratyasraushi priyaishi tadanuja munina vaishnave divya chape. Brahmasri chapi datte padipitra suhrudam viksha bhuyo jatayam. Modat goda tatante Hari-Ramasi pura Panchavatyam vadutya. Panchavatyam vadutya. Hari-Ramasi pura Panchavatyam vadutya. Natva agastyam samasta asharanikar sapatra kritim tapasebhyaha pratyasraushihi priyaishi tadanucha munina vaishnave divya chape. Brahmasri chapi datte pati pitrusukurdam viksha bhuyo jatayum modad gota tatante pari-Ramasi pura panchavatyam vadutya. With a desire to do good to the ascetics who had assembled in the hermitage of sage Sharamanga, you did take a solemn vow that you would rid the Dandaka region of all Rakshasas. After paying respects to sage Sudeshna and others, you did reach the hermitage of sage Agastya. The sage was delighted to see you and he worshipped you with respectful offering of water, food and everything else that would befit those who followed the anchorite way of life. Afterwards, he gave you divine weapons like the bow of Vishnu, Brahma's missile, two inexhaustible quivers and a sword. After that, as suggested by the sage, you proceeded to Panchavati. On the way, you met the king of vultures, Jatayu, who happened to be a very close friend of your father. You were delighted at this meeting. In that happy frame of mind, you settled in Panchavati on the banks of Godavari and sported with your consort Sita and lived very peacefully. In the next sloka, that is sloka number 8, Bhattacharya describes Surpanaka's visit to Panchavati, her disfigurement, and subsequent killing of Rakshasas Kara and Dushana. This part needs some elaboration beyond the abridged treatment by Bhattacharya. We will see them all in the next session. Lakshmana
பரத சத்ருகன் ராவணன் அழியவே தொடரதுரை வந்திராமா பள்ளம் பெரும் மாயகம் மாபுரமயோதி குலபுய தசரதன் யாகம் முடிவடைய நலம் தருவாயசோ தேவிகள் மூவரும் பலம் பெற ருச்சிதிட மக பெருமடைய கோதண்டம் ஏந்திவல் தம்பி முனிவருடன் யாகமே கத்திட தபோவனம் சென்றிட ஓரண்ட தாடகை எம்பி அழித்ததுடன் மேகவான திரை மேலிடம் பெற்றிட மரகரை அழிந்து மாரீச்சனை விரட்டி நடந்திட கால்பட அகலியருள் பெற கோரி சிவதனுசு முறித்து ஜனகன் மகளை மணந்து மிதினை விட்டே மரசுடை ராமனின் கர்ப்பமடக்கி மாநகர் சேதி மைதிலி மகனாய் தலைமுடி சூட்டிடம் ஆர்வம் குலைத்திட சித்திரை கைகேயி சதி செய்ய நின்றிட தந்தை சொல்லேந்தி தந்தாரம் தம்பியுடன் ஜடை மர உருவினில் கொண்டு நகர் விலகி பந்து புகழ் உதவ கங்கை நதி கடந்து இடைமுனி வணங்கிய போத சித்திரகூட புத்திர சோகத்தால் தந்தை மறைந்ததை தம்பி புகழ கண்ண கர்மங்கள் செய்திட சித்திர பாதுகை ஆடிட தந்து பத்ரி மூனி வணங்கி தண்டகம் சென்றிட விரதனை அழித்து சரபங்கற்பதம் பெற அபயம் அளித்து உயர் அகஸ்தியரருள பரவில் உயர்கணை வெற்று ஜடாயுமெல் ஆசியடை நதி பஞ்சவடி சேர கமவசமாகி சூர்பனகை வர பிற தம்பி அவள் முகரு தோடிட பாமரர்கள் கர தோஷண சிறி சிறர் அறக்கரையெல்லாம் தாக்கி துளைத்தி சோதரி துயர்பட மாரீச்சனை மானாய் கடையன்னு பீட புறத்தில் நிற்கொன்றிட பாதகன் ராவணன் சோரிட தேவியை கடத்தி சென்றிட சோகமே உருவானி தேவி சென்ற வீதம் உரைத்து மடிந்தார் கடுகரசன் செய்து முடிதிட மேவி கபந்தனை கரைத்தே ஒழித்து தழுபம் கரை சபரிகருள் செய்தி சித்தமும் வந்தேன் கடமை மறந்ததை லக்ஷ்மணன் ஏசிட சுக்ரீவன் பெரு சேனையை கூட்டியே தடமலை எங்கும் திக்கெங்கும் தேடின அனுமானு கணையாழி கொண்டே சம்பாதி சொல்லால் தன்பலம் தெரிந்தான் கடல் பாய்ந்தனுமான் லங்கை புதிதான் அம்மையை கண்டு மோதிரம் தந்தை கட்டிடலகையை தீயினால் சுட்டான் கண்டே நம்மையை கண்டதெல்லாம் சொல்லி சூடாமணி தந்து மகிழ்ந்திடச் செய்தார் தொண்டர்வானர சேனையை கூட்டியே கடற்கரை சேர்ந்து வருணனை படகின சித்தன் விபீஷணன் சரணம் புகுந்தான் பகைவர் நிலை பலம் தெளிவுறச் சொன்னான் இட்ட குடி கூட்டம் கடல் கடந்தேகிட பகையுடன் மாபெரும் பாதம் அமைந்தனர் மலை மரங்கள் அகந்தெற்றவர்கள் ஆயுதம் ஏறியே துவக்கினர் போரதை நிலை நாகக்கணை கட்டிட வீழும் நீ தோயகவுடன் வர மீண்டும் எழுந்தே ஆயுத சக்தியால் மீழல லக்ஷ்மணன் சஞ்சீவி மலை வர உயிர் பெற்றெழுந்தான் மாயையில் ரஜித்து ஒழிய தம்பி தாவி புடைத்தான் கொன்று தொலைதான் திக்கெல்லாம் நடுங்கிடும் கும்பகர்ணம் வர கடும்போர் செய்து உயிர் குலை செய்தி அக்கணமில் ரதமெறி ராவணன் பல தலை வேட்டி தலை விழச் செய்தி அம்மை ஜானகியை அக்னி சாட்டியாய் ஏற்றையெல்லோரும் உயிர் பெறச் செய்தி தம்மை மறந்தான் விபீஷண நரசாள உடை சூழமாநகர் அயோத்திச்சேர்ந்து மண்டாபிஷேகம் செய்தாண்டுகள் பின் கர்ப்பிணி அம்மையை ஏசிட கேட்டேன் தொட்ட குகை நீங்க கானகமனு அபிதி வால்மீகி குடியினில் பூஷலவரீந்தாள் உனக்கடல் அழகிய ராமாவும் கதை கானமாய் சிறுவர் பாடி மகிழ்ந்தன முனிவேண்டிடதாய் தரைமடி சேர்ந்தாள் அனந்தனுடன் நீ வைகுண்டம் சேர்ந்தே கர்மோதனோ நிலை கிடக்கும் பிரிவும் பங்கிட தியாகம் சேர்ந்திட வர்மோரோ கிடனாய் வந்த குருவாயூரப்பனை காப்பே ராமா
ஓம் நமோ பகவதே வாசுதேவாய. ஓம் நமோ பகவதே நாராயணாய. ஓம் ஹரே கிருஷ்ணா குருவாயூரப்பா. நாராயண 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 நாராயண